Picture this. The year is 2007, and you literally cannot walk past a single newsstand or grocery store checkout without seeing one specific face staring back at you. It wasn't the face of a world leader or a revolutionary scientist, but Hollywood's ultimate it girl caught in a state of absolute high-definition chaos. Everyone, from your grandmother to the kids at school, was asking the same burning question. How on earth did the industry's golden girl transform into its most wanted fugitive seemingly overnight? It was a car crash we couldn't stop watching, a digital age tragedy played out in real time under the harshest, most unforgiving flashbulbs imaginable. But before the sirens and the mugshots, before the courtroom dramas and the tabloid headlines, there was the magic. You guys remember the magic, right? It's hard to forget just how bright her star used to shine before everything went south. We have to go back to the Disney days to really understand the scale of it all. We're talking about the era of The Parent Trap, where a freckle-faced 11-year-old managed to play two different characters with two different accents so convincingly that half the world actually thought she had a real-life secret twin. It was legendary. Then came the era-defining masterpiece, Mean Girls. Katie Heron wasn't just a character, she was a cultural phenomenon that still dictates the way we talk and dress today. On Wednesdays we wear pink? Anyone? At that point in time, Lindsay Lohan was the highest paid teenager in the history of the world. She had the iconic red hair, the signature raspy voice, and a level of screen presence that felt once in a generation. She was essentially the CEO of the teen movie industry, and every major studio in town was throwing blank checks her way just to get her face on a movie poster. She was the definition of having it all. But then the vibe shifted, and I mean, it shifted fast. The narrative moved from the glitzy, glamorous red carpets of movie premieres to the cold, sterile, and very public steps of the Los Angeles County courtrooms. The media, which had spent years putting her on a pedestal and praising her every move, turned on her with a ferocity that was honestly terrifying to witness. One day she's the darling of the silver screen, the girl next door we all rooted for, and the next she's being hounded by dozens of aggressive photographers while trying to cover her face with a designer handbag. It was a fall from grace so steep and so sudden it felt like the entire world was holding its collective breath, just waiting for the inevitable crash. Now, you might be wondering why we're diving back into all this messy history today. Is it just for the nostalgia? Not at all. It's because the Lohanance, the official Lindsay Lohan renaissance, is finally here, and it is absolutely glorious to see. She's back on our screens, she's healthy, she's glowing, and she's reclaiming her crown. But to truly appreciate how impressive this comeback is, we have to acknowledge that her journey through the trenches was way darker and more complex than most of us remember from the headlines. This isn't just a simple story about a party girl who lost her way. It's a gritty story about survival in a literal meat grinder of an industry. To get the full picture, we have to talk about the paparazzi industrial complex of the mid-2000s. It was a completely different world back then, guys. There were no social media filters or Instagram stories to help stars control their own narrative or speak directly to their fans. Instead, young stars like Lindsay, Britney Spears, and Paris Hilton were hunted like prey for sport. It was a toxic ecosystem where a single bad photo of a celebrity looking upset, tired, or disheveled could be worth six figures to a tabloid magazine. Photographers would intentionally block cars or cause near accidents just to get a reaction. It was a dangerous, high-stakes game where these young women were the primary targets. And the real tragedy of it all, Lindsay wasn't just famous for being a celebrity, she was a powerhouse actress. Before the drama took over, serious critics and elite directors were comparing her talent to the likes of Meryl Streep. She had this incredible raw acting range that allowed her to handle heavy drama, sharp comedy, and everything in between with an effortless grace that you just can't teach. She had the world at her feet because she was genuinely, undeniably gifted. People truly believed she was the next great legend of cinema. But then, those first red flags started popping up, and the whispers from movie sets began to grow into a roar. Reports of her being unreliable, arriving hours late to filming, or sudden exhaustion began to overshadow her actual performances. The party scene, which once seemed like just a fun side effect of being young, rich, and famous in Hollywood, started to look more like a full-time, self-destructive job. Before we continue, Subscribe to the channel and tell us in the comments where you are watching from. It leads us to the ultimate haunting question. Was Lindsay a helpless victim of a predatory fame machine, or was she the primary architect of her own destruction? Let's dive into the messy, heartbreaking details of what really happened when the cameras stopped being friendly and started being predatory. So we left off at that haunting question. Was Lindsay a victim or the architect of her own destruction? Honestly, between 2006 and 2012, the line was so blurry it practically disappeared. This era was pure, unadulterated chaos. We're talking about the time when Lindsay wasn't just in the news, she was the news. Every single night brought headlines about DUIs, crashed cars, or missed court dates. And who could forget the iconic Scram bracelet? That little ankle monitor meant to track alcohol consumption became the most unlikely fashion accessory of the decade. She was actually walking the red carpet with a device strapped to her leg that told the world she wasn't allowed to party. It was surreal, right? If we're talking about peak tabloid culture, we have to mention the Holy Trinity photo. In November 2006, the world collectively lost its mind when Lindsay, Paris Hilton, and Britney Spears were all spotted in the same car. Behind those smiles, the drama was thick. Rumors of feuds were everywhere, and the media ate it up. It was a girls gone wild narrative that felt impossible to escape, and the entire industry seemed built on the back of their mistakes. While Lindsay fought the paparazzi, she was also fighting a war at home. We must talk about Dina and Michael Lohan. Imagine navigating worldwide fame while your parents have public screaming matches on national television. Michael was frequently leaking private recordings, and Dinah was often seen clubbing with her daughter. It was a recipe for disaster. Critics wonder if Lindsay ever stood a chance with that kind of support system. Were they chasing her spotlight? It certainly felt like it. The family dynamic was a full-blown circus that played out in public, leaving Lindsay caught in the crossfire of her own parents' drama. Naturally, the work suffered. Studios weren't just worried about her talent, they worried about the bottom line. After box office failures like the thriller I Know Who Killed Me, Lindsay became essentially uninsurable. In Hollywood, if an insurance company won't cover you, you cannot get on a film set. She was losing projects left and right, and the roles that did come felt like a shadow of her former glory. It was heartbreaking to watch a girl once destined for an Oscar end up in the bargain bin. She was a risk that no one in the business was willing to take anymore. Then came the courtroom fashion shows. Instead of a professional setting, the courthouse became Lindsay's new runway. She'd show up in designer outfits as if heading to a gala. The wildest moment, the time she painted a two-word message on her middle fingernail aimed right at the judge. She actually thought no one would notice. It was a level of defiance that left the public stunned. It wasn't just a legal battle. It was a performance about a star losing her grip on reality. And just when we thought things couldn't get weirder, Lindsay went international. She opened a beach club in Mykonos, Greece, and starred in a reality show that felt like a fever dream. Who remembers the Lohan beach house dance? Or that bizarre Instagram live where she tried to confront a refugee family? It was unsettling to say the least. She even started speaking with a strange accent that fans dubbed Lilahan. It was a period of absolute unpredictability for everyone involved. Looking back, there was a heavy sense of fear for her life. The physical transformation was stark. The once vibrant girl was looking worn down by constant scrutiny. People honestly worried she wouldn't survive the decade. It felt like watching a tragedy in slow motion. But just when everyone was ready to write her off, she did the one thing no one expected. She didn't go to another rehab. Instead, she just disappeared. She packed her bags and left Hollywood behind, leaving the world wondering if we'd ever see the real Lindsay Lohan again. So where did she go? Instead of another flashy Hollywood comeback attempt or a new reality show to fuel the fire, Lindsay did the one thing no one expected. She vanished into the desert. Moving to Dubai wasn't just a lifestyle change, you guys. It was a tactical retreat from a world that had become her cage. In the United Arab Emirates, there are actually very strict laws regarding privacy and the paparazzi. It is illegal to take a person's photo without their consent, and suddenly the girl who was once the most hunted woman in America found herself in a place where she could actually breathe. For the first time in her adult life, she could walk into a coffee shop or browse a store without 20 lenses flashing in her face. This shift wasn't just about geography. It was about reclaiming her own narrative. She quietly started working again, but this time it wasn't about the Hollywood grind or chasing the next blockbuster. It was about her own peace. And then the ultimate plot twist happened. Lindsay found a stable, private love that changed everything. Enter Bader Shamus. He isn't a movie star, a high-profile musician, or a tabloid fixture. He's a financier. A guy who exists completely outside the toxic bubble of celebrity culture. For someone like Lindsay, who had spent her entire life surrounded by people who wanted a piece of her fame, this normal relationship was revolutionary. Bader became her anchor, providing the quiet stability she had been missing since she was a child star. Their marriage didn't happen in a massive televised ceremony. It was private, meaningful, and real. Seeing her in such a grounded partnership really changed the way the public looked at her. It wasn't about the drama or the party girl headlines anymore. It was about a woman who had finally found home. Then came the moment we were all waiting for, the Lohanans. When Netflix announced a multi-picture deal with Lindsay, the internet collectively lost its mind, and when Falling for Christmas finally dropped, it wasn't just a movie. It was a cultural event. We weren't just watching a rom-com. We were celebrating the fact that our girl was back and she looked healthy, happy, and genuinely talented again. The success was massive, proving that the world was finally ready to root for her. It felt like a collective apology from society for how we treated her back in 2007. But the real icing on the cake, motherhood. Lindsay recently becoming a mom has solidified her redemption arc in a way no movie ever could. There is something so incredibly moving about seeing a woman who survived such a public storm finally find the calm of a family. It's like the ultimate happily ever after for someone we once feared wouldn't make it. And let's talk about Gen Z for a second. Younger fans on TikTok and Twitter have completely redefined her legacy. They don't look at her old DUIs with judgment. They look back at those years and see a victim of a predatory media machine. They've forgiven her because they realize the villain was never Lindsay. It was the system that tried to break her. So what does the future hold for the queen of the 2000s? The rumors are everywhere. Is she finally gonna give us that Mean Girls sequel we've been begging for? Or maybe she's ready to pursue that Oscar everyone promised her when she was a teenager. Whatever happens, she's already won the biggest prize of all, her life back. It's a powerful lesson in resilience, showing us all that you can't always outrun your past, but you can absolutely write a new script for your future. Can you ever truly start over? Or is she just getting started? What do you think? Was Lindsay treated unfairly? Or is this the greatest Hollywood comeback of all time? Let me know in the comments.